This week, Tyson Foods announced that it will be permanently closing its pork factory in Perry, killing around 1,200 jobs in a town of just 8,000 people. So as Perry residents struggle to cope with mass layoffs, Tyson Foods has its eyes on a different class of workers. The company is now offering new jobs to asylum seekers in other states like New York. Bloomberg says Tyson's tracking migrants in a massive database. They scroll through the data like Facebook. You see a worker you like? Tap, hire. They even had a job fair.
So you were at a Tyson fair in New York City not so long ago where Tyson was basically making this pitch. What did you observe when you went there?
They created a database for these new asylum seekers in New York City. So these people would come in, they'd learn a little bit about the company, and for the most part, Tyson had already gone through their various details of their application. And so many of them, 17 the day I was there, and then another 70 a couple weeks later, went off to Tennessee to go start their new jobs as Tyson production workers.
Oh, and the jobs come with perks, not just health insurance. Tyson's also offering lawyers to its illegal alien workers and time off to attend immigration hearings. They're firing Americans and offering perks to illegals. This
Boy, oh boy, you are going to want to tap into this one. Stop scrolling, tap in for a few minutes, because did you know that they are cremating bodies and putting it into the tap water supply? Yeah, and it's legal in more than half the states in United States. California being one of them. This is just another reason why, along with the hundreds of thousands of reasons why you should not be touching tap water, showering in tap water, cooking with tap water, because now they are also putting the remains of dead bodies in the tap water. And they say it's humane. Tap in. So before I show you the video I came across where they put this shit on the news and told us boldly straight to our faces that they were going to be cremating bodies and putting it into the water supply, take a look here. It's called aquamation, sometimes called water cremation or flameless cremation. It's legal and allowable for use on humans. And look at the states that it's legal in here. Alabama, it's legal. Alaska's considering it. Arizona is pending. This was in 2022, so it might have passed already. California, the state I'm in, legal. Florida, legal. Georgia, legal. Idaho, legal. Illinois is legal. Especially if you are in these states, not to mention all the chemicals that they are putting in the water, which is no cap. I've showed you guys plenty of proof and documents of what they're putting in the tap water, but this is mind-blowing. I cannot believe I came across this shit today. They are putting dead remains of humans in the tap water, and they're calling it humane. Tap into this news broadcast that talked about it now. This shit is wild. We need to wake up and start firing back, yo.
Where they liquefy the dead and then dump the remains down the drain to be recycled into municipal water supply. And so people are drinking it, they're showering in it, they're doing their laundry in it. And this is happening in most states across the country. In most major cities, they're recycling dead people and feeding it to the living. What does that mean exactly? And they're grinding up the bones into powder. They call this calcium phosphate, which is going to be used for food processing, undoubtedly. Maybe in your vitamins. And so what are the implications when people start eating dead people, like cannibalism? Is there going to be kuru running around out there? Mad cow disease? What about in a spiritual sense?
Facts.
What is that like when you're eating and drinking dead people? Of course, they're spraying this on the food supply. Irrigation. They're using dead people as compost, and people are drinking it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? What does that feel like? Ladies and gentlemen, obviously this is another satanic ritual.
Hell yeah, this is not okay,
that's
people.
Being performed before our very eyes.
1,000.
And essentially people are being raped by this death juice as they're forced to drink it. Talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. Now they're drinking dead people in the major cities. That's why they're all crazy in these big cities.
Facts.
They're drinking dead people, and they don't even
100.
know it, for the most part. And they keep finding human DNA in the food supply. What do you think that's all about?
What is even happening? I am telling you, I really feel like we're being frickin' trolled right now. Like, the powers that be are absolutely effing with this, because what even is this? What is this? NASA is going to fire 3 rockets at the solar eclipse. They announced it themselves. NASA has said it will fire 3 scientific sounding rockets into the moon's shadow on Monday, April 8th. Now, of course, they're saying it's to study the electrodynamics of the eclipse, right? But it gets worse, you guys. Guess what the name of this project is called. Just guess. I promise you won't know. It is being called, wait for it, Serpent Deity. Like, what? Okay, so the program is Serpent Deity. The project, APEP, the atmospheric perturbations around the eclipse path. It's going to be used to investigate how that drop in sunlight and temperature affects Earth's upper atmosphere. But APEP is named after the serpent deity from ancient Egyptian mythology, nemesis of the sun deity Ra. Oh my God. Okay, now APEP was an ancient Egyptian deity who embodied darkness and disorder and was as the opponent of light and Ma'at. I mean, is this not dark or what? Let's not also forget that while this eclipse is going on and these rockets are being shot into the eclipse, there will also be the passing by of the Devil's Comet. That is 3 times the size of Mount Everest and hasn't been past the Earth in 71 years. A lot of things going on that day. What else could possibly happen? Oh, I don't know. Maybe CERN's Large Hadron Collider being restarted on the same day. If you don't know what the Large Hadron Collider is, it is this massive, massive particle accelerator that is held at the CERN facility in Switzerland. Now, a lot of people believe, including myself, that these particle accelerators are the cause for lots of weird things that have been happening in our universe. It seems that things get strange every time the Large Hadron Collider is turned on. Time is off, and the world is just different. There are even theories that when the Hadron Collider is turned on, that it knocks us into a different reality, messing with our timelines.
Now to an alarming new study that estimates in Chicago that nearly 70% of children under 6 years old are exposed to lead-contaminated drinking water. CBS's Charlie DeMar reports on the latest major city to face this widespread problem.
Tonight, danger lurking in Chicago's drinking water, according to a new study that used AI to estimate lead levels in unfiltered tap water over a 7-year period. Benjamin Wynn is the study's lead researcher.
The goal is to have 0 lead in water at all. And we know from the science that even small amounts of lead in the water can have an impact on your child.
Black and Hispanic children are more likely to be affected and less likely to have their household water tested, according to the study estimation.
I don't think we need to be alarmist. It's not as bad as the Flint crisis. Your kid's not going to be hospitalized from the levels of lead that we're seeing, but even these low levels of lead, these are things that can affect your child without you noticing.
Lead in drinking water is a nationwide issue. Children in Flint, Michigan were found to have learning delays after the lead water crisis began there 10 years ago. Today, Chicago's Department of Water Management told CBS News it has an issue with the study's methodology, saying its results only indicated whether there is a lead service line, not routine exposure. Chicago environmental advocate Shakina Perry is calling on the city to immediately replace lead water pipes.
So not only is this a public health crisis, but it's also an environmental justice issue. And so when you look at it through that lens, that should create a sense of urgency to say that we can't wait any longer.
The Biden administration has vowed to remove all lead pipes nationwide. Here in Chicago, the Department of Water Management says it's already introduced programs to remove the city's 400,000 lead service lines and offers residents with free water testing. Nora?
Charlie DeMar, thank you.
Hey, this is a farm boy. I'm in the flower section of the grocery store. I wrote up something, a whole bunch of somethings. When it comes to flour, things are changing in the world. Have you ever heard of cricket flour? There are at least 6 or 7 countries in this companies in this world that's now using crickets, insects, to make flour. According to Devles, PepsiCo is looking to use cricket proteins in products such as Cheetos and Quaker granola oats. Insect Gourmet says insect-related businesses in the Western world are producing insect proteins for foods, beverages, confectionaries, and other things such as butters, oils, and pestos, as well as spice and seasoning. So it's most likely going to show up, not be labeled, and you're not going to know it, in pretty much everything you eat. It is expected to reach 4.6 billion in sales by 2027 and produce 1.4 million tons of insect protein. ADM, Archer Midland Daniels, is in the process of producing insect foods in Decatur, Illinois right now in partnership with Innova Foods. That's on the ADM website. Exo, which is a company that makes cricket flour, says that crickets are 60% protein. However, Iowa State University etymology department says that crickets are only about 12.9%. And this would explain why the NIH, when they do their comparisons of protein levels in cricket flour, they compare them to plants, not animals. Cleveland Clinic said that about 30% of the cricket farms looked at have parasites that carry disease to humans, and that edible insects are as underestimated reserve of human and animal parasites. Yep, Cleveland Clinic said that they are an underestimated reservoir of parasites to humans and animals. According to the NIH, it is stated that they claim that the exoskeletons, or the chitin, is a digestible fiber, but they don't know how it digests. I found that more than just a little curious. And then turn around and say that if you consume chitin, well, it'll trigger immune responses in the body. According to Science Direct, this cricket flour has all the markings for high levels of detectable arsenic. The NIH says that novel foods such as crickets show presence of arsenic, aluminum, cadmium, chromium, and mercury in all those edible insects. This is a farm boy. That's what's going to be in our food supply soon. You need to get used to it. And we'll talk to you later.
We welcome you to Air 19, and thank you, Tavares. We invite you to join with us in setting the tone for tonight's conversation in our community by calling for aid and support from all that is. We are one with all that is, and it is flowing through us now. We feel the universal life energy of all that is. You are encouraged to call for aid and support from all that is, as we are one with all that is, and it is flowing through us now, and we can feel the universal life energy of all that is. Shall we call for aid and support from all that is? We are one with all that is, and it is flowing through us now. We feel the universal life energy of all that is. Additionally, we would invite you to call for the truth, to call to see the truth in all that you see, call to hear the truth in all that you hear, have the courage to speak the truth in all that you say. We invite you to call for the truth to come into your experience. Shall you have nothing less than the truth? Additionally, we bring forth the call for the power of the divine feminine, the power of life itself to come back into our world. As we are in a world that needs more life, we ask for the power of the divine feminine, of life itself, to come back into us, to come into our activities, to come into our experiences. And we encourage everyone to do this so that you may have honor, respect, and gratitude, as you are part of the divine feminine life and the divine masculine. Shall we all have honor, respect, and gratitude? There's many things to talk to you about today. So we gave you the video so that if you were unaware of some of these things, we'd all be on the same page. So you would know some of the things that are going on, why we're looking at atmospheric water and other alternatives. We'll open the floor so that you can be in conversation and dialogue with all of the ones who are here in our community tonight. And I'd like to begin by talking about language and words as relates to air. So we all recognize that in physical reality, when, for instance, birds are born and before they learn to fly, there is a time of adjusting to physical reality. For them, the spirit of the bird has to learn how to use its technology, how to use its wings, how to flap, how to soar, and it watches its parents and it identifies with what they're doing, and then mostly it's quite successful. Well, the same thing happens for us as humans, and both in our speech and in the flight of those that fly, we're using the air. So when we're ready to speak, we breathe in the air in a very sacred and intimate way. We breathe in what is outside of us and what is inside of us, deeply into us, and we hold it there in our diaphragms. And then we turn it back around and push it out in language through our teeth, through the roof of our mouths, through our will to communicate something. So we see with children that it takes them a while to learn this technology, that just like when the baby birds, they're not coming out of their eggs and flying. The children watch us and they infer the meanings and they begin to identify what it is that they want, what the specificness of what they want is. And then they learn to use the technology that works with the air, to breathe in the air, to have the connection of breathing it deeply into the body, to join the air that is in the body with the air that they have just pulled in. And from that point, to be able to formulate a clear idea and then using the pressure to push the air back out of the mouth and out of the cathedral, through the tonsils and past the vocal cords, to articulate the precision of what they usually say first. No. Isn't that what they usually say? Like, nope. So I'm going to ask you each to remember that experience of seeing, watching, being the one who articulates the precision of no. Like, no, I don't want to go to bed. No, I don't want to drink that. No, I'm not going to eat that. And we can feel what is that. It actually, the energy of it actually stops forward motion because the words are magical. And the words have power. And the form of the technology that allows us to produce the word takes time for us to develop till we become very clear about what our intent is that we're wanting to vocalize, because the vocalization is the power of the magic of the language and the words. So you can probably remember the same thing with, our other early choices when we learn language. The next one is, do you want this popsicle? Yes, I want that. Can you feel the energy of the yes, like moving towards the desired item. This is very important because, again, it's this idea of being in respect and honor of the beauty and sacredness of the technology that works with you to interpret your clear thought and bring it into reality in such a way where its magic then enters physical reality and the power of it moves forward. So if you will each for a moment say no and then say yes, and see if you can feel the difference in how those simple words move through your physical reality. And this is important because not all of us have mastered our technology. We all are able to speak, but we have not mastered identifying what we want. Sometimes we say, we need more money. And then we articulate that over and over again in our thought and in our words, like we need more money. And because of the way that we all understand the way things work, if you issue the instruction for needing more, then you get to need more endlessly. You get to need it now, you get to need it later, you get to need it before you said it, you get to need it in your sleep, you get to need it all the time. So most of you already know this. This is a reminder for you. And if you think about, well, okay, all right, I don't need it, I want it. Oh, well, then you have the same dynamic. You want to want it, and so now you get to want it endlessly into the future. I want someone to treat me a certain way. So the precision of what you actually want is not what you're saying. You're midway between the feeling you want to feel and articulating the clear command that would get you what you wanted. So you're left with wanting. And it gets bigger. Your wanting gets bigger as you want it more, or as you leave that untidy, dangling idea. So we say that to say that the videos that you've seen and the place we find ourselves in is that we need to change the direction of our experience by identifying with precision what we actually want. If we're afraid that the banks are going to collapse and we're not going to have money, and then we stay in our articulation of fear, then the fear grows. And as the fear grows and it infects others, frequency is contagious. So what is it that we really want? Do we want Tyson to stop selling us chickens with tumors and getting new people to sell them? Is that what we really want? And do we want for a future where the drinking water is clear? Is what we really want the idea of making sure that there's no lead pipes? All of those things are probably true, but what is the thing we really want? What do we really want to experience in our lives? Do we really want to be sovereign, to make our own decisions in our own best interests for all of those, for humanity in general and our families specifically, and for ourselves? What do we really want? Do we want spiritual, mental, physical, financial sovereignty? Or do we just want? Are we calling for, which might be better language, like we call for the power of truth? We want to call for, hey, sovereignty, calling you. Could you come over here? I would like some sovereignty over here. So you get to have this experience of looking at all of the many things that are happening in our world, discerning and figuring out if they're in your interest or if they're not in your interest. Whatever your thought is, you are free to have that thought. we are really speaking about how specific is your thought about it. And we bring this up today, especially because of what's happening with the eclipse. So there's a lot of talk about the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse on the April 8th. There's schools are being closed down. National Guard is being called in. People are being encouraged to buy everything out of the supermarkets. Rockets are being sent off into space to collect data. All of this is a reaction. I have lived long enough to have seen this at Y2K, and then I saw it at 2012. And here it is again, where the pot is being stirred to get you a little nervous and a little afraid, because you are needed in the equation to make something happen. This is, again, we're really still speaking about the precision of thought, like the difference between no and the difference between yes, go right ahead. So this idea of all of the things that are happening, maybe you heard of other things that are going on. People are gathering, people are expecting towns to be overwhelmed. All of these things are an illusion. They have not yet happened. They do not need to happen. Anyone who operates in looking at the future knows that the trajectories may change. Not everything is written, and certainly not everything is written in a specific way. So there's always flexibility and opportunities to change. So many of these things that are in the pipeline that have not yet happened, it really depends on us. We can call for the truth. We can call to be sovereign. We can choose not to be afraid. We can choose not to feel that we have to be herded along into pins that will confine us and diminish us. So this is a very topical time right now, because there are many things in the chute. The way that we see it here at Of the Sun, just so that you know, is that this event was hijacked. However, it's not working. They will not be successful in getting the population to be afraid enough to make all of these events that are being broadcast to you significant. We felt the need to bring this information to you tonight so that you may be at peace. You can, not to worry. You may be at peace, but you may be at peace anyway. In general, you may be at peace, because at peace is the best place to be. Being upset doesn't really change anything. It just accelerates everything. So we wanted to speak to you about those things. I also wanted to mention, I'm not sure, we didn't have a video of it, but there's recently President Putin has released details and art from the vaults of thousands of years ago of ancient writings and drawings, and he's released pictures of Black Jesus, which for Black people is really kind of a joke. Black people already understand who lives in Africa and the Middle East. We know it's not the same as people who live in Holland and Greenland. However, this has been weaponized against a population to make people feel uncomfortable. So this is an interesting dynamic that this has been released, and it doesn't really have anything to do with Black people. It has to do with weaponizing it against people who would care one way or another. So that has recently happened and is in the landscape as well. I'm not sure if you've seen it on the news, but I've been seeing it on the internet, and the timing is also very interesting, that the many things are being moved into a space where if you're not worrying about this, then worry about that. If you're not worrying about that, then worry about this. So this is, if you had any thoughts about that, we'll be happy to hear what you have to share, but it is actually something that is being weaponized. We encourage everyone to live a life where you cannot be blackmailed, where you cannot be, where people can't hold you hostage because you are in peace with everyone. So whatever they say about anybody, your day continues. You can still drink your tea and have a pleasant day. We know that everybody is not in that space, but we encourage that level of experience. So nothing will happen. Don't be fooled by the illusion or the gravitational pull to pull you towards an event because of your reaction to fear. All the things that are happening, all the anti-life events, the crickets, the Tysons, the Black Jesus, the lead pipes, all of these things, the water, the dead bodies, all of these things should encourage you to develop a precise thought of, no, this is not the world I want to live in. I choose life. What this is not life. You are encouraged to have the active thought in your mind, I choose life in every scenario, in every situation, without fail, every time. Whenever you're looking at something that feels like it is encroaching upon you, or that you're losing your center, or you're off guard, or you're falling off the fence, or remember, you are the stability of you and the world. We are all connected. If everyone falls off the fence, then we all fall off the fence. If we can all stabilize and all understand that if we are manipulated, if we go for the illusion, then it will play out in front of us. So the fear and the hype needs our help to propel it into the precise wording. We need to speak the fear, speak the hype into beingness in the same way our technology can say no. So you are encouraged to keep yourself in a space where you are calling for life all the time. If you're having thoughts that are injurious to yourself, if you're making decisions that take from you, that subtract from you, that put you into a situation where you have less than you had before, you have the ability to regain your focus and move forward. And there are others who will assist if you can see that. One of the other things I'd like to talk about before we open the floor, it was mentioned about the crickets having parasites. We are in the moment of the beginning of spring, which is an excellent time to do a parasite purge. I would like to encourage all of you to do a parasite purge using traditional parasite herbs. We have a link for Amazon for one that is wormwood, black walnut, and cloves, which is a traditional parasite purge that we've used for decades. However, whatever thing you'd like to use, I did have a client who told me last week that in her country, they use a plum wine that is a parasite purge. I'm like, you got some of it, this is the time to drink it. So whatever works for you, it is a good idea to do a parasite purge and then to continue to do body detoxing because of the levels of contamination that are in our fields that we're breathing in, that are being, that are falling from the sky on top of us and on our food. It would be in your best interest to consider detoxing slow enough that you don't have a problem, but begin the detox process, this is a perfect time to do it. I have recently done one myself. I've gone after my viruses, any latent or hidden viruses from childhood, measles, chickenpox, things like that. Have recently cleaned them out, and now I'm working on heavy metals, and then I'll be moving into funguses and bacteria, because this process takes time. You are encouraged to begin your process. A full clean out might take more than a year, but each step of the way, you become free of the things that would control you. When you have parasites, you have parasites. You know, spiritual parasites and physical parasites have similarity. So if you have physical parasites, then you have unseen parasites as well. And these can be big or small, but when you think of it that way, keeping yourself pristine in your thoughts, keeping yourself in high levels, making sure that there's no resentment, no jealousy, no avarice, that you're not, thinking thoughts that would be a perfect environment, low-level thoughts that would be an environment that is hospitable to parasites. So the parasites, we are in the business of removing parasites from houses. Emotional, low-level frequencies. We also are in the business of helping people relieve themselves from past life and current lifetime energies that are the same. This is no different than the parasites that you have. It's just in the physical reality inside your gut or inside your tissues of boring into your scalp or your brain. You are encouraged to move into this level of hygiene so that you can navigate more comfortably the world that we find ourselves in. Vibration. We are a universal remedy of support, an ally infused with positive frequencies and biophotonic light particles intended to return one to the greater whole of one's organic nature. Within our layered structure exists an opportunity for metamorphosis, prompting divine healing energies of light to awaken your original composition, that which has been irritated by inorganic substances through mental, emotional, and physical material. We are navigators, those who operate by way of your conscious thought and directive, exponentially moving to the physical areas of stuck emotion within the body that are in need of restoration. When engaged with us, we identify and mirror the called upon frequencies of lower vibratory notion for it to see itself in transmutation, while awakening that which is dormant to shift into the rectification of optimum balance and functionality. So I'd like to open the floor now if anyone has any thoughts or anything you'd like to share. Does anyone have anything you'd like to contribute to our conversation?
I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to give them a moment to gather themselves, but since you all are waiting to walk up to the buffet, I'll do the honors.
All right.
So this was a pretty cool talk. The intro to the talk I liked it a lot because you took us on a journey of the idea of air and how it's incorporated with language. It was a fresh perspective, and it took my mind to a space of like, man, as it relates to your fire, your water, every other element. And of course, they have non-physical components, but in terms of the physicality informing the physical, I'm like, oh my gosh, the air is the first, the last, everything.
Yes.
It binds together, fire and water and whatnot from an alchemical process, but that's where it's at. You know, it makes me think about Avatar, Airbender. You know, truth is in the air. Get back to the air. So, anywho, there's a couple of different things. I'm referring back to my notes.
Well, while you do that, I'll point out that the air is the divine feminine. The divine feminine is Mother Earth and life itself. The divine masculine is the sun. And so the two working together as the symbols of earth and sun, when we look at the intelligence and the heat and the force and the direction and the precision of the sun onto the earth, this is the divine masculine. The divine feminine is represented by the air as life itself, which is also made from the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So this idea of making sure we honor both aspects, both polarities of creation, as both are absolutely needed for union, and then move that from the spiritual into the day-to-day experience of the cooperation that takes place from the two very different polarities that add two very different levels of intelligence to life itself. So I just wanted to say that in the main.
Appreciate that extra sauce on top. Thank you. All right, so there's several things I have, and I'm gonna bow out after every idea to honor those on the line who may want to come forth. But one of the first things was this idea of the precision. That's major. You know, being precise with language. You talk about that. Anyone on the line who's been around for long enough, you know, LaOta speaks about precision, impeccability. You know, with the word, with the energy, all of that, and it brought me to a space of, man, we really don't know what we want, and the things that we think we want, we really don't. It's I could see how society has infused certain things, or we've accepted certain things from society. Even the idea of money, where like, yo, you're gonna get the money, but you're gonna spend the money to get the thing that you want. Move past the middleman. Like, yes. Let go of this construct. Yes. Right? And but again, the importance of being precise. I see this will require re-education. You know, how we perceive reality, what we want, training our brains to, okay, let me get to the end goal, not the middle, in the middle or halfway there. But
I think this is really relevant, especially in emotional situations. We think we want something we saw on TV or something we remember almost incorrectly. We think we want the experience we had when we were in our 20s with someone and it was pleasant. And so we're in a different time in life looking for the same experience that clearly didn't last. Otherwise, you wouldn't be looking. It's not a bad thing. It's just the truth of it. So it's not just about we think we want money. We're confronted with the fact that money may not exist the way it's existed before, and there may be control tied to it that is not tied to it currently. And I'm sure that happened before credit cards and before there were paper checks. You know, each level of progress or evolution has changed the dynamic. However, in our world, we do get a say, or we have the ability to say no, to have say.
Speaking of which, I want to go back to the other experience you took us through, with feeling the energy of saying no and saying yes. It was so clear and obvious. Yes felt expansive. Like, yeah. I could feel myself reverberate out into the field. No, my field contracted. No, like a shield up. And, you know, I could see where the no has its place, where we may not want, like you say, no, I'm not going to stand for the direction that you're taking us economically. I won't go into deeper enslavement. And yes to more of the things that we actually do desire. Like, it makes me think about how the idea of imagination, and how sometimes people can't even imagine themselves into it. Allow yourself the opportunity to say yes. And how it ripples. So I thought that was cool.
Well, and to add to that is this idea of when you say yes, that says no to some things. So if you say, I am a sovereign being. I choose to live a life that is sovereign emotionally, physically, financially, in every way. You have already said no to everything. Everything that's encroaching you, it's already, you have already come to the precision of where you really want to be. Now there must be actionable steps to manifest that reality. So what are you willing to do? If you're not willing to do anything, if you're willing to, move out once a week for a few minutes, then that's how much of that you'll get. And it's not legislated by humans. There's a universal calculator that always tells the truth. So if you're willing to move forward in your own thinking, like, let me operate in sovereignty and let me let others operate in sovereignty, where I don't have to control them and they don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but they can be sovereign in their own experience, and we could come together as all that is, as a community, as resources for each other. But we have so much of the thought of, it's mine. This is my grandson says that. Whenever he sees another child with something, he says, that's mine. I'm like, no, that's not yours. It doesn't work that way, And so this idea of making sure that the precision of what we really want, are we saying, I want to live in this place, and then is that what we really mean? Or do we want to take where we are and our standard of living and our elevation with us to the timeline split?
On that note, and this will be my last thing before I bow out, would you be willing to share the example of the client who they manifested what they wanted, but I thought it speaks perfectly to what you're saying.
So I have a lovely client who has been with me for several years, and she was doing a vision board several years ago. And on the vision board, she wanted something that seemed out of reach for her, but it wasn't actually. She wanted a $14 million house. And at the time, she wasn't working. And she was doing the vision board, and I'm encouraging her, if you can believe it, if you can make yourself believe it, I think you can make that happen. So recently, in this past year, it's been 2 years, in this past year, she found herself in a relationship with someone who had just built a $14 million house. And it wasn't her house, but she was invited to come live there. She was actually invited to stay there permanently. But it's this idea of precision of thought. She chose not to stay in the relationship with the person who had the house, but it was her manifestation. Because the house wasn't really where she wanted it to be, and she didn't really want it to be his house. She really wanted it to be her house. So this was, so when we were talking, it's like you really have to be more specific because you're a great manifester. So if you call for sovereignty and you hold that thought, you've already produced it once. I mean, I think you could do it again. Only you may be the person. It was brand new. It got built during the time when they were in the relationship. It was a very interesting case of manifestation without the precision of exactly what she really wanted. So when she got to the house, she said it was like living at the Four Seasons. It was wonderful, but it was a place that was away from where she wanted to be. And I thought it was very interesting that she got exactly what she wanted, but it wasn't. She got what she asked for, but it wasn't what she wanted. And so I'm sure we all do that all the time. We get the thing, but then we realize, oh, I wanted it a different way. And I have often had that experience as well. As I always get what I want, I'm always surprised at what I left out.
So I have a question for you, and before I state this, I'm going to Control-Alt-Delete my previous statement about bowing out. I'm still at the buffet, stacking. I hope you all get some of this. So maybe this may be relatable to those on the line, because some of these people are practitioners. We've been taught the art of being specific, but also, so where does one find the balance in kind of allowing the universe to work on your behalf, to not be too specific, where you close yourself out of a thing? Because if I may, that's how I ended up with pushing an event taught by the Sun. You taught me, keep it a little open, don't make it too specific. But in my mind, I knew what I wanted. But the actual energetic action, it was slightly loose. So how does one find the balance between that?
It's so important to find where is the point that you feel satisfied. Like, you want a lover, but do you just want a lover? You know, you want a job, but do you just want a job? You know, you want to live in a big house, but does it matter where it is and who's living in there with you? You know, it's all of these things. So the idea of having the ability to be sovereign in all of your decisions requires you to be precise. It requires you to understand, you know, for instance, for Of the Sun, our goal is to work with the divine feminine, bringing the earth back to its glory, because it's time that takes place. So there's many opportunities for flexibility in that. And there are many steps that may be taken to make that happen. Like we are creating our safe havens. We're creating places where people can come. We're creating places where food can take place. We're looking for and encouraging people who have different skill sets. So that's different than, let me stock up all the food, and if somebody comes, I'm pulling out my gun. That's an idea of a fear-related manifestation and a plan that is finite and is not sustainable. The food won't last. The bullets aren't going to last. You won't have any community. That's a finite idea. So this idea of working with what are the laws and principles of creation. You can have anything you can make happen. However, you have to be unrelenting in your focus. You have to do it, you have to vibrate. We are crystalline, and I've talked about that before. We have crystals in our skulls. We need to vibrate constantly, 24/7, what we want, and the law does not allow that we don't get it. However, if we are around people who work against us or who have malice and resentment and anger and jealousy, if we allow it, it will affect us. So we have to also be willing to, what does it mean if you want something and then the people around you don't want it? It means that you have to want it. You have to match and meet their dissidence and go beyond it with your desire to have what you want. That's law. Does that answer it?
I'm over here trying to stop myself from bowing out because dropping the science on us. It's all landing. It's all landing. A thought came up on this whole manifestation idea, and I'll share it. The thought that came to me was, if we're dissatisfied, so based on everything that you said, if we're dissatisfied with what we've manifested, it's likely that we have a sloppy equation. You know, the idea of we're not specific. But,
the idea of not, often it's that we haven't explored fully. In every situation, we should research. You want to buy a house, start researching houses. You want to have a garden, start researching gardening. You want to learn how to do something, start pursuing available information that will make you wiser, greater, deeper, more of that information. And if it resonates with you, continue to vibrate and grow more into it, because the way the brain works is that the brain becomes what it is you think on. So if you're a carpenter, you end up with a carpenter's brain. I'm a soul clearer, I have a soul clearer's brain. Everywhere I go, something's being cleared. That's the way it works. You're a property clearer. That's how your brain works, because that's what the brain does. Now you have all of your systems, all of your technology is on board. You have the thought, you have the idea, now you've cultivated what you want. Often people are not in pursuit of what they want enough. Like, yeah, I think I want to go to Hollywood. I think I want to be an actor. I don't know what kind, but it feels like that's what I'd like to do. That's maybe not the precision of the equation that gets you to the end desire. If the end desire is not that you love acting, if the end desire is that you want fame, you may be able to get it another way. If the end desire is you want someone to take care of you, then it doesn't have to be the way you think it is. It could be that you position yourself in such a way that all of your desires are taken care of. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense.
Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Any ideas about it? Any anecdotes?
Thank you for this concept. A lot of this holds true with the thoughts and so forth. They've always said that in order to manifest something, you have to spend 10,000 hours in that thing in order to manifest it. And that comes in with the focus and the determination and I guess the energy aligning it to what you're trying to achieve. Is that correct?
Well, that is a commonly held idea. It is true that 10,000 hours will put you in the ballpark of if you're focused and if you're seeing it clearly. However, enthusiasm trumps all of that. Do you ever remember watching daytime game shows when you were a child, where somebody's going to The Price is Right and they're jumping up and down? I'm in the car. I knew I was going to win. I'm here now. I'm in my doggy suit and I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. And then they win. So enthusiasm is what pushes you quicker into a manifestation. That is your own energy that sees the reality, and you're already there. You're already feeling it. The money is already in the bank. I already won. I was in the van in my doggy suit jumping up and down because I knew I was going to win. I already was there. I was in that. So the 10,000 hours is correct, because most of us need 10,000 hours, because the level that humanity operates at is less than enthusiastic. If you think about, just look around, think about your children, your parents, your brothers, your sisters. How enthusiastic are they? Enthusiasm is the way to go.
We've been programmed to, and I was thinking of the concept of you were saying, saying no versus saying yes. And I think we're a society where we've been programmed to just automatically respond with a no.
Well, actually, no is not a bad thing, in terms of when you think of a 2-year-old who has watched adults for 2 years and been told to stop doing something that may be destructive or hurt him, and now he's saying to you, like, no, I'm not going to do that. That might be a cue for us to take to what's happening to us. Every time we try to live, every time we try to eat, every time we try to drink water, every time anything, we're being told no, and I am encouraging everyone to actually say no to that and say yes to sovereignty. So I understand what you're saying, and I do see the dynamic, but there are some things you want to say no to. And you can stop it, just like Tavares was saying, he could feel the energy of the no. We could stop many things that are happening in our world if we join together and say no.
Yeah.
Because in not saying no, we automatically say yes. You know, what is that? What is the saying? Consent?
Silence is consent.
Oh, without saying nothing is consent.
That's right. Saying nothing is consent. And we all know that because all of us have had someone take our lunch or push us around, or we didn't know what to say, and you know, things happened to us and was like, I didn't say yes, but they took it anyway because you didn't say no. Because no could stop the thing from happening. So there, you know, we want to look at how does this serve us in this time. I don't see any movements that are saying no. I just see endless videos of what is being pushed forward. So
I see what you're saying. I understand. Thank you. Well, I'm enthusiastically.
You're moving into enthusiasm.
Our manifestation.
and that laughter, this lovely giggle, the lovely laughter that you just had, is the energy that will bring forth the manifestations you are looking for. It is not worry. It is not doubt. It is not fear that will rescue you. It is joy and gratitude and the energy of expectation and imagining how it would be were it so. That is what brings it to you. So if you spend all of your time mad at yourself, you're probably going to put yourself in subtraction. So thank you, Delilah, for your thoughtful comments. Today's discussion, specifically concerning the aspect of air, is very relevant because air represents life. We use it as the mechanism to intertwine our own air with. We are air, earth, fire, and water, physically. And then we are in a world of air, earth, fire, and water also. So when we join our air to produce the sacred and the truth of who and what we are, we affirm ourselves constantly in that experience. We lift ourselves to a level that's higher by the affirmation of the truth of life coming through us, that the words, the throat, the vocal cords, the tongue, the saliva, the cathedral of the mouth pronounce the manifestation forward through our clarity, through our precision, in the same way that everything, I'm often reminded by my guidance, everything in the universe is very specific. It is not the sloppy equation. You know, everything is very specific. We all have this ability to be in communion with creation as creators. So being able to identify what we really want is the most important, because we won't even be in the ballpark otherwise. You know, if we're just throwing the ball out the window, we don't know where it's going. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to hit somebody on the head. We don't know if it's going to go somewhere. You know, this recognizing what is happening in the world and then coming to some conclusion. I think, and I'm often shown that we have lost our ability for desire. Some of us want nothing. It's like they're trying to take us to a world where you'll have nothing and you'll be happy. Some of us are already there. I have nothing and I'm perfectly happy, and I'm willing to throw away anything of yours or mine because I have nothing, I want nothing, there's no desire. So that then means there may not be enough desire to keep you on the planet. You know, this idea of making sure that we always are in the larger experience. It doesn't have to look like television. It doesn't have to look like a millionaire. It could look like the glory of today. I was outside watching the geese. What a glory that was. How amazing to have at close proximity a relationship with the magnificence of the geese. That's sovereignty all day long. That's what I wanted, and that's something I'm able to have. So it's not always about the way we see it on television. It's not always about the money. It is and it isn't. It only represents the idea, millions only represents that you can have what you want. That's what it represents to us. If you identify yourself with money, then it's more of a problem than if you just want money for the things it will bring to you. If you identify with it, then you're in danger, in jeopardy when the money system changes, because then you may feel some kind of way about it. Instead of adjusting what you really want, what is it that you really want? Do you want people to honor you? Do you want people to respect you? What do you really want? Does it make you feel good when people honor you because you have done something honorable? Does it help you when you do something and people respect you because you are respectable? That your word is your bond. What you say is your will to make it so. And what you make so is good for everyone. So that's what I have to share about that. Any further thoughts from anyone else?
Yes, Anarchist again. LaOta, what you were just saying was speaking straight directly into my spirit, into my soul. It was. I'm sitting here. I'm just absorbing it because I was saying that to myself today. There's some things that I hadn't done. I needed to do, and I've been putting it off, and getting so-called busy, air quotes, with other things, and not keeping my word to myself. And as I traveled back home from the beach, I was like, okay, I did that. That was very important to me, to get out there and enjoy this weather, and just I brought sand back, and it was just a wonderful experience. But there are other things that I have promised myself that I hadn't been doing. I got to keep my word to myself, because that's very important. If I don't do that, then my word is nothing. I can't keep my word to anyone else if I don't keep my word to myself. So as you say that, it's resonating. It's like, yep, you needed to hear this, and it needs to really sink in, and then live that out, and not give into. Sometimes, like I sit on these talks, and I often will hesitate to even say anything because it's so much information that's being shared, and I'm like, oh God, it's like bordering on overwhelm. But then I say, no, everything's good. Everything is okay. I have to speak back to those thoughts that come up and say, you can't handle this. You just kind of want to bury your head in the sand and just not see everything that's going on. But it needs to be seen, because it's confirmation of the deconstruction that's happening, and you are okay. You've done this many times before. You'll do it again, and you're okay. And so then I leave the talk feeling more refreshed and confirmed. But I just wanted to bring forth that I do struggle with that feeling of overwhelm at times, with just like, what am I not doing right? And, what's going on, and questioning and doubting, and then coming back with everything's okay. So just, yeah.
Thank you for sharing this. I think this is an important aspect. We show you the videos so that you cannot unsee it. You are in this world. and partly responsible for what continues in this world. We take responsibility for living in this world. Those who come to this talk and to other talks and the work we do are aware that they have come here for the purpose. We are a military operation. We are here to move out anti-life and install life. We make no apology for that or hide away from it. That's who we are. That's what we're doing, and it's working. In fact, it's working so much that we are no longer doing the countdown to how much negative is being removed every day. Now we're counting how much positive is being informed in the field by our efforts. So it is important for your contract with the universe because you're here at this time. So it is what is in front of you. The world we're in is what's in front of you to do. So if it helps you to see it and to know that you're not alone, that we will think the thoughts along with you of sovereignty and what is right and what is life and what should be done with our children and what should happen in the future. Who should tell us to go where to swim around in somebody's blood? What is that all about? You know, like, this is not something that we are legislating. We are actively in the spirit of living, which requires us to be sovereign. So we are encouraging people to awaken to the fact that the air that goes into your lungs, that you hold and formulate into the idea that you then push back out of you as your word, is your word. It is your bond with the air, with the universe, with life itself. We understand this a lot. All I can say is you're the hero in this story. You're greater than you think, and you're bigger than this. And I hope you get it. You are greater than anything that, any crickets. You're greater than that. You're greater than any of these kinds of things. I hope to inspire you. I am not allowed to carry anyone on my back or across the hot sand on footprints. I'm not allowed to do any of that, but I am allowed to inspire you. I hope I am doing my duty. I hope I'm on my job. It is my will and my word that that be so. May it be yours as well. Thank you again.
Absolutely, and you are.
Thank you very much. This idea of the honor and respect given to the Platonic solid or the icosahedron or what we think of as air, the animating force for physical reality. The baby fights its way down the birth canal. It makes its appearance, and then we make it breathe air to animate it. So of course, air is everything. And no, air is not just air. It is the living animation of creation moving into the physical body that is made from the Mother Earth to make creation happen in that way. Where there's creation when the sperm and the egg get together, that's one explosion. And then there are many other explosions, but the idea of reaching into physical reality and breathing air is really a deeper understanding than the third dimensional consciousness has about air. If we understood that, we would lock up people who contaminated our air. They wouldn't even have to go to trial. They would just go directly to, like on Monopoly board, directly to jail. Because of the sacredness of what is happening from the creation aspect of air herself. Thank you so much for your comments and for inspiring these deeper thoughts into these topics and subjects that we are all so familiar with. We will call it a day. The buffet is closed. I hope you got all that you could eat. I hope you're still full, don't have any indigestion, and that you can grow from what was served here tonight. We thank you. In Lakesh and Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude.